So
He's been helping me, like, just
weekend,
clean
so
it
we'll
out.
just
North
organize
Quilmes. He's
26
like, Mom, it's
inches.
freezing cold in here. I said, no, it's
Monday.
not. Put a sweater on.
26, they're getting 8 to 10 watts a night.
Not getting rain?
No, all this rain is snow up there.
Tell them you're saving money on energy.
That's right.
know.
Power
So
surge.
Just gonna keep it, cool in here.
Yeah.
And I want winter.
Or sweater.
Exactly.
Me too.
It needs to start, I figure, November 1st, it starts. We have snow until the end of March, then poof, spring.
Yeah.
No mud season.
The way I look at it, I don't have to shovel
I was
rain.
waiting for Roger, but I know where he is, so we're all good. Don't mind me.
It dawned
I'm like going,
year-old
going,
for that, but
Roger's never
doesn't work
late.
either.
Yeah. So Rose said, you folks all ready to go?
I may have to leave at 8:30. Okay.
Maybe.
Folks outside?
Council meeting December 18th,
Tree
2013.
killer.
I'd like to bring this meeting to order. Would you please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Council Garrison?
Here?
Council Bickford?
He's-
Excused.
He's excused.
Council Pesky?
Here.
Council Ward?
Here.
Council La Rochelle?
Here.
Council Mason?
Yeah.
Council Lund?
Here.
Oh, Council Bickford is here.
Look at that. He is.
All right.
Look at you go.
That was quick. Of course they did.
Next item, please.
Under public hearings, the automobile graveyard permit for Campbell's Used Auto Parts and Houston's Auto Salvage.
I'd like to open that public hearing at this point. If anybody has anything to add to it. This is for the public hearing for the graveyard junkyard permits. Seeing none, I'll close that open hearing.
Next item is the public hearing for the victuals license for Barney's Variety.
I'd open that public hearing. Seeing no takers, we'll close it.
Next item is under audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward. Please use the microphone at the podium. State your name for the record.
For the record, I'm Don Fellows for the Planning Board and from the Lisbon side of
That's how you get your attention, right there.
my deal.
No, it's all.
As,
Thank you, you're all set. If you just speak, you'll be fine.
okay. As all of you know, we had a workshop with the Planning Board and with Amanda Bunker the other night. Several things that the Planning Board got out of it. We had a meeting 2 days later and brought up a couple of issues, or presented issues in a different manner than we had seen them in the workshop. But of the things that I want to just summarize from that meeting is that we know that the process of this master planning effort is going to build on a lot of things that are already done. We know that it's on previous efforts, and we know that we're going to go make a valiant attempt to go beyond that. We also know that we've been told by outside developers that Lisbon needs to show it has a plan and a vision in hand. We know we have to develop priorities, and we know that we have to figure out what Route 196 is going to look like. The other thing we have to do is define what's a master plan, and we have to be able to see what a master plan looks like, and we need to establish a steering committee. We know all those things. I'm going to ask all of you the same way that I just asked the planning board the other night, and please be honest with me. How many of you have ever seen a master plan, a complete master plan? And you know what? The only person on the planning board that had two is also a town manager. So that's why I wanted tonight, I know that you have some excerpts of plans, but I brought the one that was given to us when the Positive Change Lisbon group had a meeting with people including Jim Howard, who's a major developer down in the Thompson area. He was kind enough to bring three complete master plans, one for Cook's Corner, one for downtown Brunswick, and the other one for Thompson. And we know that population-wise, that Thompson is about equal to us and has about the same population, although its economics are slightly different. So what I did tonight, I just wanted to bring this, I'll pass it around whenever you want to look at it. I'll give it to Fern. You can look at it during the meeting or afterwards. But this is Thompson's village plan, and was begun in 2005, and I think if any of you have ridden down through Thompson, you can see that they've been working on it. There's some, I tabbed a couple of areas in here. One of them is more about process and what they did, the planning process. So if you want to look quickly at it, you'll be able to see that one. The second tab is how the comp plan relates to it. The third part is gateways, and we've done an awful lot of gateway discussion. And the last portion is how it's implemented. So if you had questions, this is what you can expect to see from a master plan. And the other thing I'd like to do is encourage you, Fern, or the group, or the council, to establish a couple of members to the committee, to the steering committee. I know the steering committee is not formed yet. The planning board designated 2 members the other night to be permanent members of that steering committee. So we want to get on with it. And I'll give you this.
Actually, why don't you leave it in the audience tonight for right now? Maybe if someone has interest, they could look, then we can grab it after. Thank you, Don. Any other interest for audience participation?
Good evening, Steve Warren, Lisbon. Just wanted to let you know that the Trail Commission is in very hearty agreement with the appointment of Trish Southers to the Trail Commission. She has attended a meeting and participated very well and contributed very nicely. So we look forward to having her on the Trail Commission.
Thank you. Any other takers for audience participation? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Audience participation response.
We're all set for tonight.
Next item is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have an item removed may do so now. Seeing none, order 2012-184 to approve the automobile graveyard permits for Campbell's Used Auto Parts and Houston's Auto Salvage. The victual is licensed for Barney's Variety, and the minutes of November 20th and December 4.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next item, please.
Is under other business, a capital improvement budget for 2013-14.
I'll address that. Everybody should have gotten in their packets the updated version of our capital improvement plan, which is a 5-year or longer projection of what the needs for departments are. This is something that we do every year. We're required by charter to present it before the first of the year. We don't review it tonight. We'll have a workshop and we'll have public hearings, and then you, as a council, will adopt it by the first meeting in March, which is when we start going through our budget process, and you, as a council, will read out what we think we can do with our capital budget. I'll just quickly go through the first 2 pages. On the first page, you'll see on that spreadsheet all the projects that we are currently funding and how far out. Everybody got page 1?
It's actually like 4 or 5 pages
Yeah,
into
4 or
it.
5 pages back. That's page 1 on the spreadsheet. If you look at that, you'll see through each department and infrastructure needs, fire department, which is a program we've had for quite a few years, public works, parks, recreation, police department, and solid waste. These are all projects or items that we are currently funding. Some of them are through bonds, lease agreements, and things like that. If you go to the next page, page 2, these are the unfunded projects that we have, and some of these have been on the list for a while. We'll just start at the top. We've talked about the community track that the school department and I and Mark Stevens have been working on. It's on hold. It's a $400,000 project. We have to finish an access road to be eligible for a specific grant that will hopefully fund quite a bit of it. So once we get that done, we'll try to get it more into the works. Of course, we have the Webster Road Dam study. That's on a wish list. It's not a high priority when it comes to some of the other projects. MTN windows, these are, again, we have funding for this year. We'll be looking for funding for the next 2 years. We've carried it out to 2017, but I'm hoping we'll be done sooner than that. Library expansion, again, that's, you don't see any numbers there. It's something that they are running out of space, and they've talked about doing more, adding on and things like that, but that's, again, there's no plans in place and no funding tied to that. Library exterior improvements is brickwork and things upstairs and down. And again, the Public Works Office addition, that was really for ADA compliance. We currently are not handicap accessible to that building. We have not been called on the carpet for it, but we need to do something to make that, either move the office out of that building into someplace else or put on an addition to accommodate that. Again, fire department, this has been an ongoing program, and we've been funding that. Usually it was $75,000 one year, and we keep only funding it at 50. Eventually, we'll have to either pay out or
Change the program.
Change the program in some way. On the fire department is a new section, we put in a central station. It's something that we've talked a little bit about, and something that we'll be talking about when we set goals. Is this something that you want us to work towards? Is this something, I've tasked the fire chief to look at that and look at areas in town and start getting an idea of what something like that might cost if we choose to go down that road eventually, which is up to you. Public Works, again, all the place, equipment there. These are things that are ongoing as we replace equipment when it gets old and tired. You can see there's a loader that's out to 2017. Again, we would replace the solid waste loader with the newer one we have at Public Works, which has been the practice here. So, police department, again, is there quite a long list of things there that part of their most of its equipment, cars, and again, we've changed that. We put that out there, but each year we kind of look at it, how many miles we have on these vehicles, can we hang on to them another year? Are we in a position where we really should be replacing them? So you get to listen to Chief Brooks talk about that. So, and again, solid waste. Parks doesn't really have anything to speak of. We need to do some work to their road, which is a $30,000 plus project, and the building that doesn't have a furnace, she heats it with a wood stove and a gas heater. So that's something that we've talked about replacing, but again, she's done well with what she has, and we haven't funded it in the past. So, but we'll walk through this with a workshop. This has to go to the planning board, the next step for the planning board to review it, to make sure it's in compliant with our comprehensive plan. You also have the schools capital budget there. They don't do it the same way we do. And the water department chose not to supply us with anything. And it is required by charter that both the school department and the water department provide us with a capital plan each year. And that has not been the case sometimes, where we haven't received anything from the water department. Any questions on that?
Steve, could we get a possibly an updated copy of the school department? Looks like this from 2011.
Yep.
There, one that we were provided with.
I will ask Mr. Green to provide me with a more current version. This is what he sent me.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
All set?
Yep.
Next item, Twyla?
Is under B, Finance Director's Report.
You're up.
So before you, you have my finance report for the month of November. To summarize the revenues for you, November brought in just over $202,000. This is primarily due to excise tax collection at $84,000 and state revenue sharing at $63,000, as well as a URIP payment of $28,000. Excise tax is just over 43% collected, and this is right in line with where we were last year at this time. State revenue sharing is at 42%, which is slightly below last year where we were at 42%. But we were on a budget of 830 versus 820 this year. That's really all I have going on with revenues at this point, unless you have questions for me.
Any questions from council on revenues? Seeing none, can you move on?
Right. Looking at the expenses, total expenditures for the month of November were $1,019,717. Of this, 35%, or $353,000, were related to personnel services, including wages and benefits. Capital purchases made up 38% of total expenditures at $382,000. And this was primarily due to paving that was done, as well as Fisher Road and Fisher Bridge work being completed or worked on. Contractual services made up approximately 19% at $193,000. This is primarily due to the first half of the TIP payments being paid out at $88,000. Our regular waste disposal fees of $26,000. Legal fees and town building expenses of about $30,000. And again, town buildings is where we pay for water, natural gas, electricity, and telephone charges. And that is really all we have going on for expenses this month, unless you have questions for me.
Any questions from council?
Yeah, Jessica, just one question for you. Under abatements, looks like we're almost 100% over. Do we foresee that keep climbing, or what do we see for that?
A lot of that will depend on what Bill Van Tunen finds during his evaluation and his assessment duties. He has to abate things as they are presented, so it's one of the few things we have almost no control over. Last year, it was substantial. I don't foresee it going much higher, but it's really subjective to what he finds out in the field as well as what's brought to him.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I guess you're all set.
Just as always, on a side note, as of November 30th, we have collected 49%, or $4.9 million of the total tax commitment, which is right where we were last year. So that is good.
That's good. Thank you. Next item, Twyla?
C, council working rules.
Last council meeting, I actually gave you a copy of the meeting rules and asked you to kind of have some homework where you looked them over. And I guess tonight I need to get a direction from council if you believe our working rules are sufficient and working fine, we will actually just vote to keep them in. And if anybody has any concerns or actually would like to go to workshop to actually try to change them at all, that would be something we'll talk about also. Does anybody have any recommendations for any large changes to the working rules? All good with it? Is this typically something we vote on, or is that
You
basically
can just move through it, yeah. I don't
move
think it
through it?
requires a vote.
The only part of the working rules, which isn't a working rule, is a month or so I mentioned it, and it came from a recommendation that Gina had, is that we actually make ourselves available like half hour prior to the meeting, and not all of us, just when it's able to do so, but at least actually have a couple councilors and Steve. And that would basically, there are a lot of questions that come up during the meetings that possibly could be answered, or at least actually described or understood a little better prior to meetings. Is everybody, what do people think about that? I mean, is that something that we'd like to try?
I'm usually here anyway, so.
You are, yeah? Yep. Mark, you
Yeah,
think that?
I often am here half an hour early, so
Yep.
that's a good idea.
I think will work good, and I'm not sure if, I guess we'll start at the next meeting, so if you are watching this on TV, we are going to actually try start meeting a half hour earlier. It's basically going to be very informal. It's going to be just the idea of questions and answers, or just the idea of discussion, so that when they come to our meeting, maybe people can have a little better understanding of some of the items that are on there, or get a description of what is going to be on our meeting agenda. So, but besides that, I think we're all set with the meeting rules. Unless there's some other concerns, we'll move on. I think we're all set, Twyla?
Next item is town manager's report.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the town office this Friday will be closed from noon to 2 p.m., 3 p.m. for the employee Christmas dinner. We'll open back up at 3, so you'll have until 5 o'clock to conduct business. It's been pretty quiet around here this week because of the holiday, and we will be open just a half a day on the 24th, and we'll close at 1, and then we are closed for Christmas Day, and that will be it for the week. And then our regular hours will be open the 31st all day long on Monday, December 31st, and then closed on January 1st, and then open the next day. The river trail easements have all been assessed, and there's just some revisiting to some of those. Woodland Curran field, I gave you the budget number. There seems to be on track with what we had projected, $1,289,692 for the construction of the trail. There's been a few delays on some stuff, but the bid should go out for this project by the end of January, early February. And it'll be a 30-day, hopefully 30-day window for that, and hopefully you guys will award the bid to the low bidder, and the project will start in the spring. So the trail will be moving forward. The town of Lisbon was offered a grant. We didn't even have to apply for it, from Maine Development Foundation, the Healthy Main Street Program. It's a $10,000 grant for 2 years. We haven't signed off on it yet because we just found out, and so Scott and I have been talking about it, and we're going to talk a little bit more with Gina, since she's been involved with the downtown program, and see if we actually have the ability to do, it's getting businesses involved in tobacco stuff and alcohol stuff and living healthier lives. So it's really driven by the business community and some of us, and we're trying to see if we actually have the personnel to handle it. But we will look at it pretty hard. It was nice that they chose us, but we'll see how it goes. And if anybody gets a chance, Barney's is open. I hear good things about that. The old kitty corner. And haven't been up there to try their food, but we've got the menu here in the office, and I'm sure we'll be sampling it. And then tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, we have a new cafe opening on Village Street. And that we've seen the menu. Great design. The food looks good. So hopefully we'll see you there early morning. I plan on being there early tomorrow morning at their opening. I can't wait to try their omelets. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Any questions of Steve at all? Seeing none, we'll move on. Twyla?
Next item is under appointments. Order 2012-185, Recreation Committee reappointment, Tim Carville, term expiring 6/30/2015.
We actually have Tim Carville. He's been an active part of the Recreation Committee for years. He's been serving as chair. He's always done a good job, and I think actually helps, adds quite a bit to it. So I would offer
I move that we accept him as for another term.
I'll second that.
all those in favor? If Tim is
Order passed, 7-0.
Tim is watching this, congratulations. You're stuck again. Next item, please.
Another appointment, Order 2012-114, Trails Commission, Patricia Southers.
We all have the application. It looks like she's a very active member of our trail use.
Make her stand up.
She's in the audience tonight, correct? And she again, she actually seems like she has a genuine concern, and she's been to a meeting. That's Mr. Warren was actually representing earlier, saying that she has been to a meeting and actually will, seems to have what needs to be done to be an active member and actually lead them in the right direction. And I would entertain a motion for,
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Welcome aboard, thank you. Next item, please.
Counselor Communications.
Do we have any council communications?
Well, I was going to bring this up on the audience participation response. I think it was the 15th of January. We're going to have a workshop, and we were going to discuss the referendum question. So that will be on the 15th of January.
Up and coming.
Up and coming.
Just to clarify for others, which referendum?
The budget.
Budget referendum.
Voting.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Any other council communications?
I just want to thank Scott Benson for taking time out of his schedule last week. He sat down with me for probably 3.5 hours and went over stuff in the economic development world, and so I can get a handle what's happening over there. And I just want to say thank you, Scott. And it took away a lot away from it. So thank you.
A lot of stuff happening, isn't there?
Yep.
Busy time.
Busy time. Seeing none, I'll add a piece to that. We, going on what Donna mentioned earlier, we did have a meeting the other night on our 196 master plan coming up, and there was a lot of information at that meeting, and I spoke to quite a few people after, and some people had some genuine concerns about the direction we were going with this. Just to revisit the idea, January 10th, we will be having a meeting here at 6 o'clock, and what we were doing, looking for council people, planning board members, citizens, business owners to actually come forward and help us with our 196 master plan. There's a lot of things that need to be done with this plan, and if you drive down 196 ever, which we all do, and you look around saying, geez, I really would like to think that they had done this differently, or I would like to think the buildings look this way, or I'd like to see signs more consistent and looking this way, or you'd like to see bushes or other things put in place, our gateways, our building standards. These are all items we're going to visit, and they're all items that hopefully when we get done, we'll have a direction and hopefully get some tools for our planning board to move forward. There's been a lot of opportunities in town where people come up and say, why did the town ever allow this building to be built? And what the downfall is we really don't have any tools in place not for those buildings not to be built. Or how can someone's front yard look this way? Or how, boy, that one's really beautiful. How come we can't have other yards look this way? Or, oh my God, have you actually driven down 196 and seen all the handwritten, plywood signs? You know what I mean? And all these things are very much in our control. The downfall is we as a town have never sat down and actually put all the input together of people and actually made a master plan of what we want our 196 to look like. There's a few other items that really are to me, really important. Last year, we struggled as a council with some very legitimate people coming forward wanting to put up buildings and have other businesses where the zoning may not have really made sense to a lot of people. And we actually worked to try to make a couple locations work with the zoning. And during that process, as a council, at least me as a council, at that point of it, really promised the people this: we weren't just going to look at these single spots of property, that we were going to eventually take the time to look at 196 as a whole and find out what makes sense. What does the town want in certain areas, what type of buildings they want, what we want them to look like. This is our opportunity to actually put input of what we want 196 to look like, not just next year, but in the future. We actually have some different things happening right now. We actually have in Lisbon, we actually have a landmark, a building that's been there for a long period of time that's coming down. And people say, well, can't we really kind of help direct the way that corner is going to look? Right now, we really don't have any tools to help us direct to see what that corner is going to look. But eventually, if we put the right time and effort into this and actually keep it very focused on what we need, we can come up with a plan. This master plan, as you look at that book, has a lot of stuff in it. I mean, you can spend years, if you wanted to, making this master plan. We're in a little bit different predicament. We actually hired a planner to be on staff with us. We have about 6 months, I believe, left. Is it about 6 months, Don, to actually pull all the information we can out of her. So we, in the next 6 months, are going to work very straightforward on trying to make a plan and actually have not just a long-term plan of what we want to see 25 and 30 years from now, but also when we get done, having the tools in place for our planning board to help direct what the town wants on 196. And so again, if you have an interest, if you ever driven down 196 and thought we ought to be doing something different, please attend and actually help us. And the steering committee is going to be a group of people that's going to be picked that night on January 10th. This committee is going to help direct this whole program. It's going to be very intense. There's going to be, for the next few months, we're going to be meeting, by the sounds of things, a couple times a month to actually get input and direction, a lot of public input. There's going to be some public forums, some visioning. There's a lot of stuff needs to happen, because if you drive down 196, we have a lot of opportunity for different growth in different areas, and we want to make sure that growth is what we want. So January 10th, make sure you're there if you have a concern. And if you don't have a concern and you love the way 196 is, you can actually just not worry about it. But I think a lot of people do have concerns. So January 10th, 6 o'clock, we'll be meeting to set that steering committee in place. And a lot of people have mentioned, do we really think it's worth the time and money we're putting into it? The downfall is the alternative is a lot worse. If we do absolutely nothing, anything can happen on 196, and the planning board really doesn't have the proper guidance or tools to actually make those decisions. So I don't think it's an option. I think it's something we have to do. We just need to do it right. And that's my part of the 196 master plan. Any other communications? Twyla, next item.
Next item is the executive session, order 2012-187, to go into executive session per 1 MRSA, section 4056C, economic development.
We'll be going to executive session. There will be no voting at the end of this, so we should be all set. Thank you.
Do we have to
Motion
make
by-
a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.